Hey guys, what's up? This is a spoiler. This is a Patreon exclusive spoiler for, let me just, hold on. Yeah, maybe that's better, or I don't know, maybe I'm not even good in the light or in the dark, but hopefully you will find some value from this. If you've seen the new movie Duel, one of our Patreon members, thank you, Chad Ice, I believe is one of the people who've actually, I don't know if you were going to see it this weekend or you're going to see it next weekend, but for our Cinematics Facebook group, he was talking about how he was interested in seeing this movie Duel, which is now out in theaters. It stars Karen Gillan, Breaking Bad's Aaron Paul. Who else is in it? There's this actor named Beulah something. Anyways, there's some. Also Theo James from Divergent. He's in it for the first. For the intro. It's basically a glorified cameo. It's written and directed by Riley Stearns from The Art of Self-Defense. I don't know why I'm actually going into describing the movie, but this is straight up just a spoiler video. So if you don't mind having this whole movie spoiled for you, keep on watching. And if you do mind, stop right now. Go watch it in theaters, or if you don't want to pay the extra bucks and watching it in theaters for this weekend or next weekend, because right now it's only out in theaters, you can save your coins and purchase or rent it, or it's going to be streaming on AMC Plus and it's going to be on demand and digital on May 20th. So there's a couple of things you can do. You could spend your money this weekend or during the week while it's out in theaters to watch it, or wait until May 20th to actually rent, purchase, or stream Duel. So is it worth it? I think it's really worth it. I enjoyed The Art of Self-Defense. If you have any idea about that movie, which stars Imogen Poots, one of my favorite actors, and Jesse Eisenberg, another actor I love, and Alessandro Nivola, that movie is currently streaming on Hulu. So if you have no idea who writer-director Riley Stearns is, I suggest you give The Art of Self-Defense a shot, because it's a very specified narrative with a specific cadence in the way people talk and communicate with each other. That specific cadence and style is applied from The Art of Self-Defense, and it's now the same thing for Duel. Okay, so there is a select few cinephiles who really appreciate the work of Riley Stearns. There is, I think, a whole swath of other people who really don't like his material or just don't catch on to his material. Our Anderson Cowan, my captain, over at Cinematics on our latest episode, he was talking about how he gave it 3.5 stars. I gave it 4 stars. So for Anderson, it is a recommend as an indie film, yada, yada, yada. Okay, so that is just, one more thing about before we get to the spoilers. Duel, plot, very quick plot synopsis, is Karen Gillan from Guardians of the Galaxy. She plays this girl named Sarah. She realizes, she gets this diagnosis that she's dying, she's terminal. So we live in the near future, and this movie's in the near future, and she decides to have herself cloned, so her mother can actually have the clone of herself without going through the trauma of losing her daughter, and also her boyfriend will have a soulmate. Well, the clone of his soulmate. She just wants her loved ones, her 2 loved ones, to make this transition easier. So when she dies, at least a part of her, at least a clone of her, will stay around. The twist is, and it's not a spoiler, it happens within the first 15 minutes of the movie, and it's part of the plot synopsis. When she realizes she's actually not dying, she has to get rid of the clone. The clone doesn't want to leave. The clone wants to live her life. Okay, so ultimately, under these rules, the real human person, that is Sarah, and her clone, they must within the span of a year, actually go to a duel, actually participate in a duel to the death. So the survivor gets to live, and the dead person gets to, die. That's ultimately what Duel is about. Again, written and directed by Riley Stearns. If you want more information, I have my Deepest Dream article on the show notes, not in the show notes, on the description of this Patreon post. So I'm just gonna go right into Riley Stearns' 1-minute answer to my interpretation of the ending. And this is something that's really cool, whether you like this movie or not. Anderson, Eric Holmes, and Bruce Perky, Eric and Bruce, and Anderson and myself, we each had different takes on the ending of the movie. Bruce Perky did not like the movie that much. I think he gave it 2 stars or something, 2.5 stars. Eric Holmes liked it just as much as Anderson did, and I liked it the most out of every one of them. But at least 3 out of the 4 people, 3 out of the 4 hosts, the movie hosts, liked it. That's the only negative reviews from Bruce Perky. But all that said, we each had a different outlook on the ending, And what's interesting is Riley Stearns' viewpoint of the ending of his own story is completely different than what I had. Wait till you hear what I had. I had this whole, okay, so now as we speak, we're going to get into spoiler sections right now in 3, 2, 1. All right, so the spoiler is Sarah and her clone decide not to take part in the duel at the end. So Sarah has been working within the last years really hard to get herself into tip-top shape and killing shape to actually win the duel, whereas her clone has reaped the benefits of Sarah's life, and she's actually been a little bit lazy. It's kind of like what I'd do if I knew I had 1 year before the duel. I'd probably eat a lot of potato chips, pizza, watch movies, just watch a ton of movies, and just be a lazy bum. I'm sure Anderson would work his butt off, and Eric Holmes and Bruce will work their butt off as well within 12 months to actually get in tip-top shape for the ultimate duel. But this clone was lazy, absolutely lazy, didn't do anything. So what happens is Sarah and the clone, they decide to actually not do the duel. And Sarah says, hey, I'm going to start a new life with this clone. We're going to go to, I'm thinking, if I recall, we're going to go to Canada. We're just going to go to the border, and we're just going to we're going to make a really cool time of it. Everything's fine. The clone pretends to go along with Sarah's plan, with their ultimate plan, just to be together. They both forge a new life together as buddies, I guess, as mirror images of themselves. But what actually happens is the clone decides to cheat. The clone decides to poison the water that she gave to Sarah. Sarah is poisoned. She is left in the wilderness to die. There's a shot at the end that of like just this patch of grass out in the forest. We're assuming that's where Sarah is right now, and it just sucks. Sarah dies, and at the end, we see the clone is she's living a suburban life with Sarah's boyfriend, and she's ignoring Sarah's mother's calls. Basically, she's in a pickle. She's very frustrated with her life, and you see, I think if I recall, the car that she's driving at the end, she just has a breakdown on the side of the road. And I'm thinking, if I'm recalling, the road is a little bit circular, and the car is a little bit broken down. The car is beat up. The reason why the car is beat up, it alludes to the clone realizing she's not good at making right turns. And a couple of scenes before, when she was alive, Sarah was trying to give her clone some advice on how to drive. And so the way I did it was, I thought that the ending with the clone being really frustrated in the car and frustrated with her life, I was thinking that the clone actually regretted killing Sarah, that the clone wanted to actually live a life with Sarah, because maybe Sarah would be the real soulmate she wanted to, just the mirror of herself. That was my read on it. It was completely wrong. I'm not going to tell you what Riley Stearns says, but just know that I think he's a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. So he has a very dojo mindset. So he puts that dojo mindset into the ending of Duel. And I think, again, whether you like the movie or hate it, or maybe are just completely neutral on it, your read will be you'll have your own read at the ending of Duel. And I hope the movie is at least a worthwhile experience for you if you've already seen it in theaters. But check out Riley Stearns' comments and take on his own story. Like in 3, 2, 1, and tell me, what, hopefully some of us, this is a very small group in Patreon. Hopefully some of you have actually seen this Duel over the weekend, or maybe you will see it within the next week or two. If not, hold this post until May 20th, maybe watch it, and then get back to me, tell me what you think. So again, that's it. Just a little bit of talk on Duel. Here is Riley Stearns. And again, if you want the full video of my interview with Riley Stearns, and Q&A, it's transcribed. That's going to be on my Deepest Dream post, and I'm going to send you the link right there on the descriptions, and I'll also transcribe his answer as well regarding the end of Duel. Love you all. Thank you for supporting me and Anderson here on Cinematics, this year's Cinematics, and hopefully this audio is actually okay, but talk to you later. Tell me what you guys think of Duel. Bye. And this thing does not work, but anyways, talk to you. Bye. Yeah, before you go, Riley, I'm going to actually say this for my Patreon members and people who listen to the podcast. It's going to be a spoiler discussion on your film after they see it.
Yeah.
I find your film to be absolutely resonant. Can you just talk about that choice and having the clone realize that she could have gone a separate path where she could have been happier and really connected with something. And it's kind of like how we as people, we like to, as a form of self-survival, we like to kill so many things, and then ultimately we realize some of the things we killed really end up killing us. Can you just speak to that? I
Oh,
thought that was very amazing what you did.
thanks. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I've never even thought about it that way. I always thought of, which I really appreciate, and it's a different read on it. The idea was always that Sarah's double was going to take the easy way out. Like when she says, I doubt she's even been training for it, she's talking about herself. Like she fully realizes that she did not prepare in the way that Sarah did. And they're basically the same person. They're not like so far apart that they're like completely different people. They're different enough though that Sarah decided I'm going to be active and take responsibility for my actions and for my life. And Sarah's double said, I'm going to enjoy what's happening right now and think about the duel down the line. And I think that her taking that easy way out so she could live for survival ended up being the only way that I could end this movie. Any other ending feels disingenuous to the story that we've kind of been going with this entire time. If we ended up in a duel where Sarah or Sarah's double wins, everyone's expecting that in a way that was never even on my mind. So the idea that Sarah actively tried to make her life better and Sarah's double had to stoop down to a certain level to exist and then doesn't even enjoy the existence that she has post that, that was the only intriguing ending to me. And it's the only way I ever thought of ending the movie.
And
Hey, Greg.
hi, how are you, Riley?
Good, thanks.
Now, first off, Duel, I'm a huge genre fan, and what I appreciate about this film is you could have easily gone for the genre and made it a really cool guilty pleasure of a film, but there's a lot more elements at work to Duel. Was that your main intention? You know, really, a lot of black comedies are about, the joke or the aesthetic value, but this is a very human film in many ways, which I don't want to really give too much away.
Yeah, I mean, it makes me feel really good to hear you say that because I think that there is a way that some people could watch a movie like this and not find the humanity in it. So it was always a humanistic film for me. It was always a movie about how you relate to people around you and how you are the one who drives your life. And if you let yourself fall into sort of a complacency, like what do you need to get you out of that, like to become a better person, to become a better friend or loved one. So no, that means a lot to hear you say that. I feel like I've made 3 features now and every single one of them has had a genre element to it that is only going to be like maybe the surface level, and then you've got so much going on underneath that's more important to me. And I think that genre is a great way to explore human tendencies, to explore, not that I'm addressing political themes, but politics, to explore any number of sort of topics, but through a way that people are not expecting. And I think it's a wonderful like genre in general, whether it's sci-fi, horror, thriller, whatever. I think that it's a great Trojan horse almost in terms of getting people to explore ideas that maybe they wouldn't have otherwise.
On exploring ideas, the idea of Duel is the fact that we live in a world where people can be cloned and you can get anything at the moment notice with video chatting and everything. That's kind of like our society now. But with all the tech, when someone is dying, why can't we actually look them in the eye and empathize with them or sympathize with them or just connect with them? Talk about that element in your film, which I think is a really subtly hidden within the black comedy of it all. It's very heartbreaking if you really remove all those layers.
I mean, if we're looking at how Sarah is told that she's going to die and the distance there, I feel like that's something that I wanted to have. Like we in Sarah and Peter's relationship, through the until we jump to the 10 months later point, you don't see them in the same room together. And that's something that, I mean, I and many other people have experienced. Like you have so many people in your life who feel like they're super close to you, whether it's social media or video chat or whatever it is, but you never actually get to see them face to face and talk to them and have that connection. And so I feel like we can get into this place where we're lulled into this sort of disconnect with people that we do love. And for her to find out that she's dying from a video chat. I felt like there was a sadness there, but also kind of maybe an unintentional comment on society as a whole. So
I haven't seen Faults yet, but with this film and The Art of Self-Defense, I was thinking as a cinephile, I was thinking, what does Riley go through when he's writing a script? Because each of your characters are so complex, and you really deep dive into the stories. Is the writing process for you a very solitary one, or maybe freeing because you can actually explore all of these emotions, feelings, and analysis in that whatever room you're in?
I would say it's freeing and challenging and solitary at the same time. I write by myself. I'm not a person who has a co-writer. I write to direct, so I know exactly what I write is going to be what I make, which is great. I love that sense of responsibility and that freedom, but it's also challenging because it's kind of all on you to do it. I sit with an idea for quite a while before I go to script, and when I go to script, I've structured the story in such a way that I'm very confident that its roots and its foundation are sturdy enough to then start putting up those walls and decorating it in a way that I feel like represents me at that time. But yeah, it's always challenging. It's always a little solitary in a way that feels scary. But when you come out the other side with a script that you're very proud of, and then you know that you're going to get to make, I mean, not that I knew I was going to get to make self-defense, but I thought and hoped that I would. I feel like it's a super rewarding experience to say that I did this. And then once you make the movie, you've got collaborators, and that becomes the different part of the process, which is just so much fun, and getting to work with people who are better at their job than you are at that job, and you get to kind of be the overseer, the person who guides the ship. That's where the real fun starts. As challenging as writing is, I'm realizing the older I get and the more I do it, the more that I enjoy it. It's just a tedious process at times.
I don't know if I'm making the correct comparison or an apt one, but I'm thinking Rosalind Russell and Cary Grant and His Girl Friday. They have to be two special people to actually command that kind of dialogue. And what is it like to have a collaborator like Karen, where your dialogue is very specific, the tone, and she pretty much hits the homer right out of the park, proverbially?
Mhm.
Is that hard to find? And how great is that to just have that with you?
It's a very specific delivery that I have needed for all three of my movies, and I am completely aware of that. And I know that it's not necessarily everyone's safe space, but I think the thing that's connected all of the leads of all three of my films has been this sense of like full commitment to the project. And what that ends up entailing mostly is full trust in me as the director, that I'm not going to steer them down a path that they that's going to not work, or that's going to put them in this position where they feel it's not going to suit the character or suit the movie. I think that there's always been a full trust on the actors' ends that I know the overall feeling of the movie, and that I'm going to be there to help them achieve that with me. Similarly, I've always had implicit trust in them as creators, and so it's not like it's just my say. I want them to bring themselves to the character. I want them to have a relationship with the character that I might not even have. But I think the trust on everyone's end is the biggest thing. And that's something that Karen, Aaron, and Beulah came into on Duel. Luckily, they'd already been able to watch my other films, so they knew sort of the space that we wanted to be in. But even then, I feel like this movie's different than those other two movies in its own way. And so coming in, having an initial idea of what it was probably going to be, but then also being able to change when I needed that to be one way or the other. I'm very lucky that I get to work the way that I work.
This answer will probably take forever to answer, but I just want to ask you, with the films I've seen, you could have easily going back to the first question, you can easily make an entertaining, just broad canvas type of film. But it seems to me that cinema and storytelling is very important to you. Can you just talk about going those two roads, knowing that you can easily go one road if you wanted to, but you're really sticking on this really interesting path? Where did you realize that this was the path you wanted to go? And obviously you can go many different paths, but
Yeah.
you could have easily gone that way.
Well, I think the thing is that it's an instinctual thing. I don't consciously come at a thing and say, this is how it has to be because I don't want to do the thing that they're not expecting. It's more, I know when I know. So it's conscious in the sense that I am actively thinking about the project and actively trying to figure out what it's going to be. but I'm not going like, oh, everyone else would do this. I got to do this to be different. It just naturally tends to be that my perspective is very much a certain thing. And so when I come to create something, that is impossible for me to kind of shake. It's just, I know what I do. I know like how I write. I know how I create. Uh, it's it's funny. I think that, and I've said this before in interviews, a lot of my peers are, I feel like it's more, there was a generation that sort of did this in a specific era where you would come into a project and you'd be like, I don't care if anybody else likes it, I'm making this for myself. And like, I cannot work that way. Like you mentioned, you can make this big entertaining sort of thing. And at the end of the day, I want everything I do to be entertaining, but it might be entertaining in its own way. So I think that Duel is very funny. I feel like Duel has themes and topic or explores topics that are interesting. It may not be entertaining like big action movie might be, like a spectacle, but there's always an element of entertainment to it. And if there's not, for some people, I get it. But for most people, I think coming into a movie like Duel, even if they're challenged at times, hopefully they're going to find something that is entertaining about it. So yeah,
Riley, really loved your film. Thank you so much for your time.
thank you so much for having me. This was really, really nice.
All right, take care, man. Bye bye.